Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Press for Truth TV. Today is Thursday, June the 7th, 2012, and we have a lot of big developments in the green movement here in Toronto, as city councillors have just voted on a motion to ban plastic bags here in the city of Toronto by 2013. Here's an article just out today from the CBC. Toronto bans plastic bags by 2013. Toronto City Council has voted to ban plastic bags outright by 2013. Council had spent Wednesday at City Hall debating whether to eliminate a mandatory 5-cent bag fee that Mayor Rob Ford had wanted axed. A majority of councillors decided to kill the bag fee by July 1st of this year, but Willowdale Council David Shiner also made a motion to eliminate plastic bags altogether by January 1st. His motion passed 24-20. And this doesn't come as a complete surprise to me. Toronto has been a kind of leader in this area. Some of you may recall it was just a few years ago that the City of Toronto banned the use of bottled water at City Hall, Old City Hall, New City Hall, and Nathan Phillips Square, where Toronto government employees are basically at work forced to drink the government-issued fluoridated tap water, and if they wanted to bring in their own fresh, non-fluoridated spring water, they are no longer allowed to, so they have to ingest the sodium fluoride while at work. And also, you may recall that the liquor stores here in the province of Ontario, the LCBO, has banned plastic bags for a few years now. Anybody who's been to the liquor store in the last few years, you'll notice that they only issue paper bags now. And it's important to understand that, yes, we need to reduce the amount of pollution. Pollution is bad. We have to reduce the amount of plastics that are ending up in landfills. But the issue that I have with the current green movement is that the entire environmentalist movement has been completely hijacked by the international globalists, by the global elite. It was a good movement in the beginning with good intentions, but as I said, they've completely usurped the movement, and it is now more about not only uniting the world together under a singular common cause, but also to convince and condition you that you are the problem, that you are the one who is responsible for the heating up of the earth, and therefore you are going to have to pay taxes, either through a carbon emission tax based on your carbon footprint, or you may even be fined for not getting involved in the green movement. Here's an article that just came out from Florida, where Miami Beach may be fining you for not recycling. Miami Beach passes recycling ordinance, begins in July 2013. People who live in the city of Miami Beach must soon recycle or possibly face fines. City commissioners passed a recycling ordinance on Wednesday. Once the ordinance goes into effect in July 2013, people who don't recycle would be fined $350 for their first violation, $500 for their second violation, and $1,000 for the third violation. So another interesting point about this is that this all is coming on the heels of the end of the annual Bilderberg conference, which only ended just 4 days ago. And some of you may recall, while I was there in Chantilly, Virginia, I pointed out the fact that it was very intriguing to me that Alison Redford, Premier of Alberta, was in attendance at the meetings. And you may recall I was saying a number of times while I was there that, you know, knowing that she's a big environmentalist makes me wonder, why is she invited to Bilderberg? And it made me wonder if this whole global warming perpetuated by man and the ensuing green movement is back on the table, back on the agenda at Bilderberg, to try to convince the people of the world that you are indeed the problem. So it's interesting that just 4 days after the end of the Bilderberg Conference, we're starting to see all these things dished out. And of course, Toronto is being one of the leaders in that. And, Canada has kind of been on the forefront of this for quite some time. Of course, we have the international globalist Canadian Maurice Strong, who was instrumental in starting the Earth Summit back in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. And Maurice Strong is a huge globalist who's been hijacking the environmentalist movement for quite some time now. Here is just a little bit of info on him from his wiki page. Maurice Strong, Canadian entrepreneur, former Under-Secretary General of the United Nations. Strong had his start as an entrepreneur in the Alberta oil patch. He was president of Power Corporation of Canada until 1966. In early 1970s, he was the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Human Environment. Then he became the first Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program. He returned to Canada to become Chief Executive Officer of Petro-Canada from 1976 to 78, and he headed Ontario Hydro, one of North America's largest power utilities. And again, as I said, this is the man who was highly involved in the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. A little bit of information on that. The United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, also known as the Rio Earth Summit, was a major United Nations conference held in Rio de Janeiro from June 3rd to June 14th, 1992. So again, this particular agenda has been on the table for quite some time when it comes to conditioning the people that you are in fact the problem, and therefore the solution lies in penalizing, taxing, and fining you for your carbon emissions. And so again, I just wanted to bring this to your attention because it's very intriguing that this is all happening in different areas around the world just 4 days after the end of the Bilderberg Conference. And I want to leave you today with a very good documentary. I've mentioned this on Press for Truth TV here before, but it was months ago. So if you happen to be new to the show here, you may have missed it. So I'll put a link to this film in the description, and it's called The Great Global Warming Swindle. If you are curious to hear the other side of the debate, perhaps you've been caught up in this green movement, environmentalist conditioning that mankind is responsible for the heating up of the earth. There are a number of other top-notch scientists who would completely disagree with that. In fact, many of these scientists were withheld from the IPCC's report. And you also may recall back in 2009, we had the ClimateGate scandal, which hackers who hacked into emails of some of these scientists showed that they were completely misconstruing the data and flat out lying about some of the data that shows that man-made, that global warming is so-called man-made. So anyways, if you have time, check out the video in the description. Really, really great film that gives you the other side of this debate on whether or not the Earth is heating up in the first place and whether or not it's caused by man. If you want to learn more about that other side of the issue, I would strongly recommend this film. Again, it's called The Great Global Warming Swindle. And anyways, guys, that is it for today. I want to thank you for tuning in once again. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow on PressForTruth.tv. Take care.